In the world of Zelda, we fight a lot of different creatures and groups because they pose some sort of threat to the world or at least Hyrule. However, I bet a lot of the time, people don't really know why they're even attacking certain enemies. So today we will look into one of these groups to find out why we want them dead. More specifically, the Gerudo. Now before we start this video, I want to say one thing. I got the idea for this video from another YouTuber known as Platinum WoW, who does something similar to this for World of Warcraft stuff. So go check him out if you're interested. Now, let's dive right in. The Gerudo, also known as the Race of Thieves, were seen in a lot of different Zelda games. Now usually they live in a harsh desert, and this rough climate has made them very tough and resourceful. They are warriors by reputation, feared and respected in the countries they inhabit. And interestingly enough, due to a unique biological quirk, the race consists almost solely of females, with a single male Gerudo being born every 100 years, and he is destined by Gerudo law to become their king. Now we've seen them in 4 games in total: Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Four Swords Adventures, and Breath of the Wild. And in 2 out of the 4 games they are enemies, and Link fights dozens of them. However, that's not all, because in some games we even find out why they disappeared. And in some cases the answer can be quite depressing, to be honest. For example, in Twilight Princess, the ancient sages state that their king led an invasion on Hyrule in an attempt to establish dominion over the Sacred Realm, where the most powerful artifact of the world can be found, the triforce. And fragments of their text can be found at the Arbiter's grounds, which is widely theorized to be the Spirit Temple repurposed after the Gerudo were gone. And so, if you think about it for a second, the forces of Hyrule probably destroyed the Gerudo completely. They are nowhere to be found in Twilight Princess after all. However, in Four Swords we got some answers. In this game we find out that the Gerudo were driven out of their home in the Gerudo Desert, and found a new home in the Desert of Doubt, in the southwest corner of Hyrule, and began working to restore their ties to the Hylians by denouncing their former leader. So it seems like some of them did survive, but I bet a lot of them were still killed in the end, or died during their big move. However, now that we have an idea who they are and what we have done to them throughout the years, why do we want them dead? Well, the answer might seem simple, but it's actually surprisingly complex, and that's because it's partially subjective. Now, all of this started in Ocarina of Time, like almost everything does in these stupid games. I mean, come on, Nintendo! After the Hyrulean Civil War, which united the country that happened several years before the start of the game, the Gerudo swore loyalty to the royal family of Hyrule, and their desert came under the kingdom's control. They have their own fortress and society located in Gerudo Valley, where most outsiders aren't really welcome. And here we also saw a male Gerudo, who was known as Ganondorf, and was their king and god. He was raised by 2 Gerudo witches, Kame and Kotake, who are together known as Twin Rova. Now these 3 are basically evil and had a plan in mind for world domination, and they mostly did this for 2 reasons. The Gerudo people were kind of screwed because they were living in a dry, worthless desert where nothing really grows and no wealth can really be built. This is something Ganondorf tells us in the Wind Waker, which is one of the games set after the events of Ocarina of Time. At the end of that game, when you face him, he talks about the harsh conditions the Gerudo had to live in, resulting in his ambition to obtain the Triforce. And the second reason is a bit more complicated, because Ganondorf isn't actually human, but the evil reincarnation of a demon king. Long ago, in the very first game of the franchise's history, there was an epic battle between Link, Zelda, and a demon king known as Demise. He originally came to Hyrule by ripping open the surface of the world and literally crawling out of hell. And he was after one thing: the Triforce, the most powerful artifact in the entire world. Now in the end, he's sealed away, breaks free, and is then defeated by Link and Zelda. But right before he dies, he curses them. And thanks to this, the cycle of a hero rising up to defeat an evil demon would repeat again and again. That's why all the Zelda games have Ganondorf in them. Well, almost all of them. And in Ocarina of Time, the same thing was happening. This evil Gerudo ruler was planning to take over the world and get the Triforce. using both deception and the Gerudo people to achieve this goal, because his promises to the king were all lies. In Ocarina of Time, he betrayed the people of Hyrule as soon as he could and took over the world. And all of this was possible because Link opened the door to the Sacred Realm where the Triforce was hidden. And they actually did this in order to stop him. But in the end, it allowed Ganondorf to take it, while he was stuck there because he was too young to wield the mighty Master Sword, which was the last seal. All of this can be seen in the child and adult section of the game. As you can see, things got quite dark later on. So one reason why we want the Gerudo dead is because they assisted their evil dictator king in taking over the world. And as some of you might know, in 2 timelines Ganondorf even uses his Gerudo forces to attack the Kingdom of Hyrule. I'm talking about the child timeline where Ganondorf gets exposed and ends up in a full-on war with the Hylians a bit too early, and the downfall timeline where he straight up wins. So in short, we want the Gerudo dead because of Ganondorf, the demon spawn that is always of Gerudo origin, for some reason. Although I have to say, after Ganondorf's defeat, some Gerudo can be seen celebrating with the rest of Hyrule at Lon Lon Ranch. So we only want them dead in some games, because in a lot of the later games they completely changed their attitude. However, aside from being allies with evil at times, there's also another reason why we don't really like them that much. Because sometimes they are pirates or thieves. In Majora's Mask, we encounter a tribe of Gerudo known as the Gerudo Pirates who live in the Great Bay of Termina, specifically in Pirates Cove, in a stronghold called the Pirates Fortress, which they keep heavily guarded. And this time they do not appear to have a male king, and he isn't even mentioned once. So this time they are evil on their own terms. Now prior to Link's arrival to Termina, they had stolen Zora eggs from someone named Lulu while she slept. And they had stolen her eggs as they were informed by the Skull Kid that they are a clue to reaching the Great Bay Temple, which is said to house a treasure. And when Lulu's friend Macau came to get the eggs back, the pirates beat him up so much that he dies of his injuries later on. And when Link found the dying Zora, Macau begged him to finish what he started and return the eggs to the Marine Research Lab. So yes, that dying Zora we encounter in the game was basically killed by these pirates because he was trying to save children that they had stolen. Clearly in this game they are evil, and this time there's not some evil ruler that forces his will upon them. So they can be evil regardless of outside forces. So even if they become allies, they can always become villains again. And in this instance, we want them dead because they stole someone's kids and then killed off the hero that tried to save them. And I bet all of you are curious now about one thing. Did we succeed in doing this? Well, shockingly enough, yes, because in the Wind Waker, things didn't go too well for them. Well, it seems like that's the case at least. And that's because Ganondorf is the only Gerudo who appears in this game, and there are no traces of past Gerudo civilizations, although it is theorized that the Forsaken Fortress was once Gerudo's fortress. But there's no real proof for that except that we saw it in Ocarina of Time, the game that came before according to the story, and it has to be somewhere, I guess. However, that doesn't even have to be the case, because in this timeline Ganondorf lost during the events of Ocarina of Time. However, at some point he broke free again and actually came back. But the hero Link was nowhere to be found. And that's all because of time travel shenanigans, which don't really make sense to be honest. But that doesn't matter. And so, because of this, the world of Hyrule was doomed. No one was there to save the world. And so, the people prayed. In the end, the gods responded and commanded the people to flee to the mountaintops. And as soon as they had done so, the rain started. In the end, the world was flooded and almost all of Ganondorf's forces, which probably included the Gerudo, drowned and were never seen again. So that's why we never see them in the adult timeline. And we also didn't see them in the downfall timeline where Ganondorf actually wins. Now, I'm not sure what happened there, but the Gerudos are no more. So only in the child timeline where they were pushed out of the Gerudo Desert, they survived. And now we all know why we want them dead, and how successful we were in achieving this grim goal, even though our motives were questionable at times. The Gerudo were just stuck in a useless desert and got the short end of the stick compared to the Hylians. So maybe our morals were questionable. But hey, they're dead now for the most part, so who cares? thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe, click the bell button, like, all that stuff. And also tell me in the comments what you think about this series. Should I do more videos or should I not? Let me know.